Welcome to the vlog. I haven't been able to go up and see the boat this week, which is a bit unfortunate. Mark texted me to say there's not much going on, and he would text me again on Monday, which was yesterday at the time that this vlog comes out. I've still got the same t-shirt on. That's not very bright, is it? I have washed it, by the way. One of the things that's a little bit frustrating is that I don't own the levers of when work happens on the boat. You know, I push out content every week, but I wanted something boaty to happen, so I went to a brokerage and had a look at some boats. What was quite pleasing is the fact that there are boats coming on the market. Pre-lockdown, this brokerage was jam-packed with boats, and after lockdown had finished, I think that lots of people have bought narrowboats. Now we're coming out of this system of COVID, although peaks and troughs and all that sort of stuff, there are some boats on the market again. The average size of boats was between 45 and 57 foot. But some of the boats I thought were quite quirky. If I was on my own, some of these boats I'd snap up actually. If your requirement, if you're living on your own, then to have a smaller boat, and some of them were really quite nice. What I've learnt from watching YouTube and the amount of people on YouTube now doing up their boats is I would pay an awful lot of attention to detail on the interior of the boat, and not from the floor up. That's you can see that. It's the floor down. And I've found that if the boat smells somewhat damp, it's not necessarily because the windows are open and it's cold on the inside of the boat. It's because there's probably water or a lot of dampness underneath the floorboards, rusting away the bottom of the boat. But it's really interesting the information you get, and what you now find is important, because I'm now kind of really concentrating on my boat and I'm doing some contrast and compare. I noticed that the boat prices are still quite buoyant. I don't necessarily think that boats in the condition that I saw today 3 years ago would have been selling at the price they are being sold at today. So the supply and demand issue is still keeping prices high, and I feel sorry for those people, the younger generation trying to make their own way in life. The housing market in the UK is astronomical. When I was a young man, you could borrow 3 times your annual salary, and that will buy you somewhere buy you something decent. At least you could get on the housing market, even though the interest rates were 8%. But now, if you were to earn £25,000, for example, you could borrow 5 times annual salary. You still can't get much for £125,000. But you can buy a boat. But then, of course, geographically, you've got to live near water. If you can afford to buy a boat and then add value to that boat, I think by the time you've added value and done it up and done all the great things that people are doing right now on the YouTube, you sell that, and that's a great chunk of money for a deposit for a house. There's nothing easy about boats. There's nothing easy about life right now. And I just consider myself extremely lucky to be in the position I'm in. I went to look at some boats. Sabun VT. I'm on a boat. It's a boat that's on a marina, being on a brokerage. Whilst it's too late for me to sort of change my mind on a lot of the detail that's on my boat, this has got hopper style windows, there's lots of light coming in, it's kind of great, but the windows create condensation and they're only single pane, and the boat itself looks okay. Built in 2005, it's for 65-ish grand, something like that. I just wanted to get the feel of a boaty type vlog and being on the water. And one thing I've noticed on this particular boat is that it leans. It needs to be trimmed at some stage, and I wouldn't know how I kind of would know how you do that, because you lift up the floor and then you reposition the ballast, and someone's got to do that if you want to buy this boat. Otherwise you're kind of leaning over the whole time. Price wise, discuss. 3 years ago or 2 years ago, pandemic, or 3 years ago when I last come to this marina and had a look at a few boats, would I have paid this amount of money for the boat? I'm not so sure. I think my mind has changed dramatically on what I want out of boats. But you know, if you want a boat, you can only buy what's on the market at the time, and if you're not prepared to wait, or you can't wait for whatever reason, then you know, you get what's on the market, unfortunately. And you know what, at least you can live. Something to consider, even if it does tilt to the right or the left, whichever way you're looking at it. But it does need trimming. It does need a little bit of ballasting, reballasting. I'm on a different boat now. This is a 46 foot, what I will call an absolute project boat. I mean, it moves as soon as you walk on, so I'm not so sure there's ballast on the boat, and it's been well worn. I said on one of my vlogs that, you know, yes, my boat's 66 foot, so it's another 20 foot of boat, and this is 46 foot end to end, and I've got 50 foot of livable space end to end. And you know what, it doesn't half make a difference looking at this and looking at what I've got. Although it doesn't look big, this is a well used boat. Damp has got it. But again, if you are in a position where you haven't got anywhere to live and you're in a position to spend a bit of time, this is a great boat to kind of rip it out and start again. That was a band in the 80s, wasn't it? That was a song in the 80s. Orange Juice, I think they called themselves. Rip it up and start again. But you know, this is one of those boats where you can plonk it on the side of the canal and spend your time doing it up. Is it worth it? I don't know. I don't know. But it's one of those things you could do. You could live on it whilst you're doing it up, and if you add value to the boat, you'll certainly get more for, you know, when you come to sell it. It needs a bit of love. This is alright. This is a nice little cozy little boat, quite quirky. Do you know what? You know, portholes are very small. It's a little bit dark down there. It's not a particularly it's not a particularly big boat, but do you know, it's quite quirky. And 5 gas hobby thing, and kitchen, small kitchen's nice. Long sofa typey, long sofa thing. I suppose you could sleep on it too. But do you know, it's a nice quirky little boat. This, quite like it. Short on the old head height. There's some good deals knocking about. Well, good deals. There's still some nice boats knocking about. But it does depend on what you want. It does depend on your requirements. This is, for me, this is a single person's boat. I like it. Still prefer mine. This is a wide beam boat, but the bit I don't like about these, there's some of these boats that I've seen that have come down with the, you know, from the top here, and you come round. I can't fit. I can't do it. I would struggle to get in this boat, particularly when I'm a little older. I think I would struggle getting into it. So, you know, when you come down, it's like coming down the centre, that's fine, but coming down the side, you have to hunch the whole time. But they're, you know, again, wide beams, plenty of option. This is quite a nice boat as well. And the difference between a narrow boat, some of the narrow boats I've been on, and this particular boat is stability. Wide beams give you a bit more stability. But of course, if you're on the southern part of the waterways, that's where you got to stay unless you lift the boat out and move it to north, because a wide beam is too wide to fit on some of the locks. So it constrains you a little bit, but it was just one of those things I wanted to sort of push myself out, see what boats there are on the market, what they're like, and you know, there are some good ones and there's some project boats. Buying a new boat, you get to choose the name. Choosing the name of the boat is quite an intimate part of the process, and I think it should mean something. It's one of those things where I've given it a great deal of thought, and currently the name of my boat is Slow Time, or In Slow Time. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go on that, and the reason for that is, well, life on a canal is in slow time. You know, a far different way of life, style of life, from living on bricks and mortar, where you're travelling to work on the car, and the speed of the cars, the speed of the roads, everything, traffic, life is manic by comparison to what it was when I grew up, although you kind of thought it was busy then. So living in slow time, I think, was an apt name for the boat. It has some form of meaning, because in one of my previous jobs I was on a drill and ceremonial squadron, and when we used to change the guard at Buckingham Palace, we used to march onto the forecourt, and part of the changing of the guard procedure was to advance in slow time towards the old guard. And so that kind of has relevance to my previous life at work and my life that's going to happen on the boat. I think that's kind of quite good. When the boat's launched, I'm not so sure if I'm going to crack open a bottle of champagne on the bow of the boat, Prosecco, and here names this ship, you know, whatever, and you know, whatever. Now there's another name that requires a bit of deep thought. Well, you can imagine this, can't you? What's the name of your boat? Whatever. And it's like, whatever happens. I think that's quite a good name, but I'm not the captain of the Good Ideas Club. I'm not the only one that has the great ideas of naming boats and naming conventions or various bits and bobs. And it was about just before Christmas, 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas, when one of the lads that I used to serve with DM'd, direct messaged, and he said, are you going to allow the audience to name your boat? The answer was no. But the more I thought about it, and then I wrote back to him and said, well, maybe. And then a couple of weeks later, somebody else asked, you know, are you going to allow the audience to name your boat? So that's 2 people that have said that. And then it was only last week when, again, another person said, what are you naming your boat? Are you going to allow other people to join in? So I kind of, there's 3 times where people have offered opinions because they're interested. Now, strangely, I've served with all 3 people, so I'm pushing it out there. In slow time, there's a reason for that in future life, and there's a reference to that in my previous life. But there's some bright people out there with some great ideas, I'm sure. So, you know, if you want to offer an opinion as to what I could name the boat, I'd like to hear from you. Comment below, see what you think. Coming up is a little bit of a montage of what I used to do on this ceremonial squadron. I absolutely loved my time on there. We went to so many places, you know, from Australia, America, Canada, Germany, across Europe, Norway, South Africa, Cyprus. The squadron performed in all different parts of the globe, and it was great. Absolutely fantastic. And so here's a montage of what I used to do. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. See you next week, hopefully with a bit more My Boaty type story coming on